Howdy folks, Dave here at Thunder Mesa Studio. I've recently received a lot of questions about Thunder Mesa's locomotive roster, so I figured it was high time for a video on that topic. Most of my motive power comes from Bachmann, since they have been the primary manufacturer of ON30 rolling stock for the past several years. But each engine has its own story to tell, and each one gets a unique look, details, and backstory. On Thunder Mesa, it's steam power only, as is fitting for the time period being represented, where everything is modeled to look as it might appear sometime between 1890 and 1910. But I'll be the first to admit that those rules are a little loose. All Thunder Mesa locomotives share names with legendary Disney artists, animators, and Imagineers. Amazingly, it seems they all had doppelgangers in the railroad business, in the parallel universe of Thunder Mesa. At the top of the roster is engine number 1, the Mark F. Davis. This unique vertical boiler steamer was entirely scratch-built from items I had lying around. Power, such as it is, comes from a Bachmann HO cable car truck. Unfortunately, the one spot no longer runs. She was DC powered and I left her sitting too long on the higher voltage DCC rails and the motor burned out. One of these days I'll get around to remotoring this little engine. But for now, the Mark Davis usually sits at the spur for Hellengone Tunnel in Hanging Rock. At least the headlight still works. Engine number 2 is still under construction. I'm backdating a Bachmann inside frame 440 to look more like an engine from the 1880s, with a shorter smoke box, fluted domes, and a big diamond stack. As of today, the tender's done, and the completed engine will be known as the Harper Goff. I'll keep you posted on this one. Engine number 3 is still very much in the planning stages. What's known is that it will be modeled after the tiny locomotives from Nature's Wonderland, and named in honor of the brilliant Disney Imagineer, Claude Coates. Thunder Mesa's engine number 4 is another Bachmann inside frame 440, and one of the real workhorses of the railroad. Which is fitting, since it's named in honor of Earl Vilmer, the man who supervised construction of both the Disneyland and Walt Disney World railroads. The Earl Vilmer is pretty much a stock Bachmann engine, with only some fancy paint and decals added by me. It's a fine running model, and I wish I had 10 more just like it. One of these days, I'll get around to adding a sound decoder. In the number 5 spot, we have a beautiful, sound-equipped 244 Forney from Bachmann that is yet to pass through the Thunder Mesa paint and detail shop. And that's because the Forney's wheelbase is too long to handle the layout's tight 15-inch radius curves. The solution will be to convert the engine into a 240 with a 4-wheel tender. That's a project I'll be getting to soon, and then the number 5 will take its place on the roster, bearing the name of the one and only Lord Kimball. Thunder Mesa number 6 is a Bachmann 042 Porter with a strong family resemblance to the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad locomotives at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. This is actually one of the oldest ON30 locomotives that I own, and just like the Energizer Bunny, it keeps going and going and going. I repainted the cab and added decals, then named the engine in honor of Disney animation legend and miniature train buff, Ollie Johnston. Naturally, one can't have an Ollie Johnston without a Frank Thomas, and that brings us to engine number 7. Frank and Ollie were the best of friends in real life, so it seemed fitting that the 7 be a similar Big Thunder style locomotive. This time I designed an all-new laser-cut cab that more closely matches the Big Thunder engines, and then added the usual decals and details. In fact, I did a whole video on this build. Number 8 is another real workhorse of the railroad, and the only geared power on the line, so far. This Bachmann Stearns Heisler has been modified with a custom cab and extended fuel bunker from Banta Model Works, as well as paint, decals, a real wood load, and a hard-working crew of artista figures. Number 8 is named in honor of Imagineer and mechanical genius Bob Gurr, the man responsible for just about anything with wheels in the early days of Disneyland. In fact, I did a whole video on this one too. Thunder Mesa number 9 is another Bachmann 042 Porter, this time named in honor of Admiral Joe Fowler, the construction boss and first general manager of Disneyland. I liked the fancy pinstripe paint just as it was, so this one is pretty much just a stock Bachmann Porter with decals added. Unfortunately, the Admiral Joe occupies the rip track these days as the victim of a bad decoder. Hopefully that will get fixed in the near future, and I might do some more work on this one as well. Which brings us to another work in progress, number 10, the Bud Hurlbut. It's a sound-equipped Bachmann 040 that still needs paint, decals, and probably a keep-alive capacitor to keep the sound going. Bud Hurlbut was the designer of Knott's Calico Mine Ride and the Timber Mountain Log Ride, and my hope is for the finished locomotive to look something like this. One long-term project that has been recently completed is Thunder Mesa number 11, the Sam McKim. This locomotive started life as an HO scale Spectrum modern Richmond 440. I realized that by adding a new O-scale cab and other details, it could be converted to a small but credible ON30 engine. I designed and built a new laser-cut cab inspired by Ward Kimball's Chloe, then added a new stack, box headlight, a bell, pilot, a removable load of real coal, and Thunder Mesa decals. By the way, if you're not familiar with the work of Sam McKim, just have a look at the wonderful fun maps of Disneyland that he created. His amazing artwork set the standard for all park maps to come, and his little caricatured locomotives were definitely an inspiration for the number 11. Just like the Disneyland locomotives that inspired it, the Sam McKim is usually on excursion train duty, proudly flying the stars and stripes and showing guests the thrilling sights of nature's wonderland. This handsome little steamer is on the roster as a light-duty, mail, passenger, and excursion locomotive, and Thunder Mesa crews are sure to always keep the paint fresh and the brass highly polished. The number 11 may be a product of the NKP Locomotive Works, but she fits right in Thunder Mesa country. And now for something completely different. At number 12 on the roster, we have one of the new Bachmann World War I trench locomotives. Currently sounding great, but looking more like she belongs somewhere in France than in the desert Southwest. Thankfully, all things are possible through the magic of model railroading, and the number 12 will soon undergo a remarkable metamorphosis. From World War I trench engine to a no-nonsense 262 mining locomotive, named in honor of Walt Disney's original Imagineer, Roger Brogy. But that project will be a story for another day. Other power often seen running on the Thunder Mesa line are a pair of engines from the late Vern Niner's Estrella and Sonora Grande Railroad. Number 2, the Estrella, is a heavily modified 042 Porter with extra pickup in the tender, while number 3, the Rattler, is a feisty 040 with a keep-alive hidden below the cab roof. Both of these fine-running engines are a tribute to Vern's skill and artistry, and I am proud to have them on permanent lease to the Thunder Mesa Mining Company. Beyond the ON30 rails are the even narrower gauge ON18 tracks of the Horse Thief and Nevermind and the Calico Mine Company. I've talked about ON18 motive power in other videos, and I'm doing an entire series on Calico, but here's a quick summary of what's currently running. Horse Thief and Nevermind number 5 is a scratch-built Baby Climax locomotive running on a Cato 11-106 mechanism. The engine is named for the great Disney artist Herb Ryman. Engine 2 is the Walter Knott, a tiny vertical boiler steamer made from a Cato 11-103 mechanism and a 3D printed shell from Shapeways. Also using a Cato 11-103 mechanism is engine number 3, a currently unnamed and unfinished two-cylinder Baby Shay. In the near future, the Calico Mine Company will be getting its own motive power, designed in the style of Knott's Calico Mine Ride. I'll keep you posted on that. And that, my friends, is anything and everything running on or currently planned for the Thunder Mesa layout. I hope you enjoyed this look at Thunder Mesa motive power, And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them below, or in a future video. Thanks for watching, amigos. Keep moving forward, and adios for now.